Mixon, head of steam, running left, takes it in for a touchdown. Joe Mixon having a big day here on opening Sunday of the 2024 season.
Texans Swarm! 1-0. Alone in first place in the AFC South. Good afternoon. It is Gallant George on Monday, September 9th, 2024. And the Texans took down the Indianapolis Colts yesterday, 29-27, largely behind Joe Mixon, who had 30 carries for 159 yards and a touchdown. First place in the AFC South. That's good. A win. Also good. And yet, they got lucky yesterday. They got lucky. If they were playing a big boy team, they would have lost yesterday. And while I'm happy they won, and it's great that they got a division win, based off of all the hype that they've gotten this offseason, don't we have to raise our level of expectations? And winning a game by 2 points against a quarterback that is very inaccurate is still a win, but it's going to need to be better if they want to win against the big boys. Because if they played against the big boys, if they played those two teams who played on Thursday night, if they played one of those teams who played last night or on Friday night, they would have lost.
You know, it's funny to think about this game, and from that perspective, Paul, is Anthony Richardson gave you a little bit of everything in this game. Like, he had big boy throws because he's got a cannon. He was just letting those things rip down the field. So you're right, where there is a but to this. You know, there is a, yes, they won, but they could have easily lost this game.
They could have.
And the Mixon, I think, was fitting to start the show with because of all the things that happened in this game. That was the most, I don't know, surprising, pleasant, just awesome to see. But yeah, you're right. They got a little bit lucky in this game. Some bad decisions from the coaching staff, some weird decisions from the coaching staff throughout this game. So I'm with you. There's definitely a but to this week 1 victory for the Texans.
I need more. That's all I'm saying. Not poo-pooing it. A win is a win in this league, but we should have no kid gloves on anymore when we're talking about this team. Last year was a lot of fun. We had very low expectations, and they exceeded all of them. But we have higher expectations this year. And against better teams, I think the Texans will lose. I guess the glass half full edition is that you take a look at the AFC South, and it looks like the Texans are the clear front runners as opposed to being a team that will be battling with Indianapolis. But then again, take a look at the final score. Indy did keep that close in a game where Indy couldn't run the football. Texans deserve credit for that. Indy couldn't stop the run. Texans deserve credit for that too. Lots of credit to go around. I'm just saying, this could have been better.
I did walk away impressed with both teams in this game. Like, I thought Indianapolis played a very good game. I was pleasantly, surprised with what you saw from Richardson. The flaws that we knew going into the game showed up. He was inaccurate over the middle. There was just a lot of the simple quarterback stuff that he could not do. But he can be electric at the same time.
He can. He's a great video game player.
Yeah.
But he also has his DJ ukulele moments. And honestly, as a Florida Gator, you should never impersonate some bum-ass Florida State Seminole in the way that he did. Look, Richardson missed a couple of touchdown passes, and that interception that he threw to Caleb Bullock in the red zone, that was on an overthrow. We can talk all we want about how bad that field was, and it was a terrible field and how much of a factor it had on the game, but it equally impacted the Texans and the Colts. Anthony Richardson, man, he is very, very inaccurate. Is that going to get better? I don't know. Not that much experience playing as a quarterback over these last couple of years, but these are just things that are in the back of my mind. Sorry I'm not coming in here, with the Texans starter jacket on, with some Battle Red sunglasses, with my helmet on, or any of the costumes. No, this is a business as usual win, and it could have been a better one. I give them a lot of credit for some of the things that they did along the way, but they just got to know in the back of their mind that this was a game that they could have lost. This is not something to be celebrating about. This is one to look at the film, study it intently, and make sure that against Chicago Sunday night, that you've cleaned up a lot of these issues in a game that had some hiccups.
Yeah, what we saw yesterday in the NFL was that this was the first preseason game of the year. This was the first time that you had really all your guys in action. Of course, you get the false start from Laramie Tunsil. Shocker.
Mhm.
The start early in the game. That's like when you really knew football was back. When they threw the flag and they called it on Laramie. But I think I'm with you 100% on this take, Paul, because the expectations are higher. If you look at the video that our social media person Sam put together on Friday,
Sam, the social media savant,
of all of our predictions at the station, every single host and producer that was in the video had 10 or 11 wins, and about half of us had them going to the AFC Championship.
I know.
game.
It made me want to walk it back a little bit.
I know, but
I thought this time I was going to be on an island again as the hype man. Nope. And now we're all picking it? Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I think I was like the first person to record, and I was like, I'm going to be the only one that says this. And then the video started going. I was like, okay, like we're all pretty much in the same boat, but that goes to what you're saying. The expectations have been raised. The expectations that you won is that you were going to win this game. You did it. The expectation on Sunday Night Football is that you're going to win by double digits. You should. The expectation for this team is that when you get to that tough stretch, with the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Chiefs, is that you're going to win at least 2 of those games, because that is the expectations that the front office, the players, the fans, the media should all have on this team. So yes, yesterday was a win as you expected. There are flaws in the game, but there's still so much. There was a lot of positive for sure.
Yeah, and
100%.
I know. We want to talk about the positive after a victory. Somebody texted in. I believe this is from the 832. Guys, a win is a win. It's a division rival on the road with a payback element attached. Sure, but this is a team that is not standing in the way of you going further than you've ever gone before. Getting to all those AFC Championship game appearance predictions that half of the station had. I mean, Sean's the measured one in the room here. Sean said divisional round and done, like the Texans always
Soft.
I believe in certain elements of Texans football, and one of those is losing in the divisional round.
If they played like that against a team better than them,
Yeah.
they would have lost. This is not me saying, oh, fire everybody. CJ Stroud's a bum. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you got to raise the level of expectations for this team. And what they did on Sunday, it was a win. And a win is a win, but it could have been better. And if they played against a better team, they would have lost.
It was fitting that we wore suits on Friday. Well, you wore a suit. Joe was in his pajamas at home.
No show Joe.
That's fake news. I was getting major work done.
Okay, was
Major work done.
on a beach somewhere, and
drilling my mouth away.
yeah. But it was a business-like win for the Texans, where they did what they had to do to win. And I think the biggest positive for me for the Texans, and I agree with you, Paul, that I think a different quarterback, you probably lose this game.
Which is funny because we said that last year, the last game of the year, because
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew was so doo-doo in that Saturday
But
game.
it's different because
Yeah.
the touchdown pass to Pierce, that might be a situation where I don't know if another player on your schedule can make that throw.
That's true.
Probably
that
Mahomes.
was a hell of a ball.
Actually, Mahomes.
Yeah.
But anyone else, like, I'm not sure if you had to worry about that throw
Josh Allen,
for
maybe.
the rest of the season. But I think that all the intermediate stuff, you probably lose with a more accurate quarterback. But on the flip side, on offense, our biggest question mark for this team was the biggest strength. And that's kind of what really good teams do, is they'll find if there needs to be a game where they rush for 5 yards per carry 30 times a game, they can do that. We all came into the year and came into this game thinking it'll be the wide receivers that make the difference, and they did. They made some big plays themselves. But really, what ultimately won them this game was Joe Mixon, of all people.
You mentioned the offensive line and the field. When you watched the game yesterday, Paul, where did you come down on that? Because they weren't great, the offensive line. CJ Stroud got sacked 4 times.
But they were, because they ran for 5 yards a carry.
Yes, like they were great running, but they weren't great protecting. It felt like every time we saw it with the incredible play from CJ Stroud in the second quarter where he slipped on the 4th inches or in the fourth quarter, and he got the pass to Brevin Jordan. Do you blame the offensive line yesterday, or are you giving some slack to them in week 1 because of the field?
I'll give them a little bit of slack. I thought the Titus Howard tripping CJ Stroud sack was entirely a result of that slippy field. But at the same time, yeah, Stroud was under pressure a lot in this game. Now, the Colts have a good front seven. We talked about this on Friday. So this was going to be a challenge. The Texans offensive line checked the box for one of those challenges. I did not think this was possible for them to run 40 times for 213 yards, 5.3 yards a carry. And Joe Mixon getting 30 carries, did not see that happening in the first game of the year. My week 1 overreaction for Mixon is, oh, wow, that extension's fine, which is a crazy thing to say because they gave our running back an extension who they gave 30 carries to the first game of the year. I mean, this might not last longer than a year.
That's a situation. I was thinking Anthony Richardson had the game where no matter what you think about him, you think it more. Like you're more on board with whatever your take on Anthony Richardson is. I think that what you brought up with Joe Mixon's another example of that where you can view that as either a positive or a negative, that he had 30 rushes for 150 yards and they signed him to an extension. It's like, ooh, actually, I kind of want to put all these miles on him, then kick him to the curb. Or it's, wow, he can still do it. Vintage Joe Mixon. It is funny that there are both pros and cons with the list of facts of what Joe Mixon did.
I mean, Joe Mixon was arguably one of the best players in the NFL yesterday.
Yeah, he was. I was really impressed. I was
Yeah.
impressed. I saw some people when I did my live stream late last night because I'm a master procrastinator. When I did that, some people were saying, this is the same guy who said Joe Mixon wasn't going to do anything going into the year. My defense, not a great one, is, hey, man, the Bengals didn't think he was going to do anything either, and that's a team that went to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They were going to cut him, and they traded him for a late-round draft pick. So I was wondering, hey, does he still have the same stuff? But he showed a lot of patience, and what I was really impressed by, the physicality. And, I mean, he became infamous for his physicality back in the day. Changed man, better guy now. But very physical in this game, putting his shoulder into people, stiff-arming people. He looked really good.
Part of the physicality I really loved, and this is very stupid, and it doesn't matter, but when you rush for 150 yards, I can also say I love this. I like the no gloves look. If you're gonna run the ball and you're just gonna leave, it adds to the element of physicality. Is that, hey, listen, our running back's not even gonna wear gloves, and we're gonna hand it to him 30 times.
I think it also helped that if you noticed towards the end of the game that he had like paint marks.
His
all over
his
his
arms are
jersey.
marked up from that trash ass field that they're playing.
What a dump of a field.
They need to stop playing these games in Indianapolis if they can't guarantee a safe field for the players. I'll just say that.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
We had all the smoke for Brazil. Let's hold ourselves to the same standard.
I'm with you. And people
stop playing in third world countries.
People were
like Indiana.
Dude, here's the thing. It's a great point. I went on a side tangent in my live stream last night into just dumping on Brazil because I actually looked this up after the game because I didn't want to get canceled for it. Brazil is not a first world country. It's not a first world country. Just saying.
I didn't even know we had like a list. I thought it was
is it second?
I looked it up.
I thought it was a you know it when you see it kind of
is
situation.
there like a first, second, third power ranking here?
It didn't say
Okay.
what tier they are.
The college football playoff releases the rankings every week.
It didn't say what tier they were.
The AP has said that Brazil is a
low on the coaches poll.
second tier country.
But to your point about that field on Friday, you're right. That field yesterday was atrocious. And I mean, what are you doing putting this new field in for week 1 of the regular season? Why don't you do it in the preseason so you can figure out what's good and what isn't? I don't know. These billionaires, I get it. They're caring about the profits more than they're caring about the product because they know everyone's going to watch the product no matter what. But you're going to get guys getting hurt all year long if that's the kind of field that you're playing on. A field should not be slippery. Just a thought.